In the previous video, we learned about how you can create objects using either the default constructor or the customized constructors. And we would now like to extend the member class by Accessor methods and also Mutator methods. We want to see syntactically what the difference is between the two methods. And also we want to see how we can invoke them at the runtime and do some tracing to really make sure you understand when the context objects are different, invoking the methods will actually have different effects, even though you're invoking the same methods. That's something I would like to show to you by the end of the current video. Okay, let's do some programming very quickly. You will see that the syntax of defining methods, either accessor or mutator, will be very similar to how you define a utility method. The difference is we don't use static anymore, which I will explain also when I do the tracing. All right, so now let's first of all do the accessor methods. Accessor method simply means you're going to return some useful information, as I said before. So you need to have a return statements typically at the end. All right, let me maximize the member here. Before I do that, I would like to create one more version for the constructor, just for the convenience for illustration. Let's say we want to calculate the BMI for the member. You know, the personal trainer may want to keep track of the member's health measure. So you also know about how to calculate BMI. For the formula, we're just going to apply that directly. Okay, so let's say we say public member is just another version for the constructor. Let's say when we first create the objects, we just want to initialize their weights and heights. Okay, so let's say double weights and also double heights over here. And let's make some assumption over here just for the convenience over here. Assumptions. The weight is in kilograms, and also the height is in, let's say, centimeters. And of course, in order to calculate the BMI, you have to use kilograms and also meters. So there will be some simple conversion we have to do when we calculate the BMI, but we'll do that. All right, and over here, easy. We're simply going to use the this keyword to really initialize the context objects, the object we are currently creating. So this dot weights is assigned to weights, and also this dot heights is assigned to heights over here. Right. So you should really know the difference between this dot weights versus just the weights, right? That's something we explained in detail in the previous video. Okay, so I'll rely on you to review that yourself. All right, so now we got the third version of the constructor completed. Let's now do some accessor and mutator at the same time, and then we'll write some JUnit tests. I'm only going to write a JUnit test for the rest of the week. However, if you want to actually see the console output, you can feel free to actually develop your own console application. It's up to you. All right, so now let's do accessor method. Let's say we want to get the weights and heights, the easy one. Okay, so we can say double. Okay, so typically for methods, unless you have a good reason to make it private, typically you only make a method private if the method is only supposed to be called within other public methods in the same class, which I will give you one example in the next video. For now, I'll just make it public, meaning that any other class, even in a different package, they can call this particular method, for example, from the console application or maybe from the JUnit test. Let's say public, and what should be the return type? Should be returning, let's say, a double number. Okay, and then get weights. And then we don't need any additional parameter because we already have the weights over here as the attribute. So we don't need any additional input for the calculation. That's a simple case, right? We'll do some complicated case as well. So this one's easy. We can simply say return this dot weights. And there's something I would like to mention quickly. If you compare this dot weights over here versus this dot weight over here, this dot weights over here, the this dot keyword usage here will be necessary, because if you didn't really use it, there will be some logical error because you're trying to assign the parameter weights to itself, basically, right? So you really need this dot weights over here. On the other hand, here you don't necessarily have to say this dot weights. If you simply get rid of this dot over here, you can see the weights is still referring to the weights that's declared in line number 18, right? So so these two contexts are actually different. But if you really don't mind, you can always put this weights if you really meant to refer to the attribute value. Let me put it here. That will also make our tracing and understanding easier, which I will show to you. All right, so we'll get the weights and also public double get the heights. Okay, and then we can say return this dot heights over here. Of course, you can either return double, just the value. Let me just say double for now. You can, for exercise, you can say I want to return the string value here. I can say I will format the string, format a number such that there's exactly 2 digits after the decimal point. You know how to do it using string that formats. We know that already. And you can also maybe append the units into the return value. You can say returning a string, and you would say maybe 72.5 kilograms rather than just 70.2. Right, so that's some extra exercise I can leave to you. That for now, it'll be enough for illustration. Okay, and then I would like to get one more accessor method because we want to return some useful information. I would say there are 2 kinds of useful information you can get typically. Either you can just return the value for attributes directly. You can see we are returning either weights or heights directly. Or you can return some computation results based on the attribute values and also the input value that's passed to the methods. Let me show you one example. Let's say over here, we're going to say public and then string. Let's say get Bmi Report. So it's kind of similar to the exercise you did before, but we're just putting that into the OO context over here. All right, so the get Bmi report, the idea would be, let me show you a table over here, and you have seen this before when you did the exercise. We want to calculate the Bmi, which will be calculated based on the weight in kilograms divided by height in meters, the square of heights. And then based on the Bmi, we can interpret whether it should be underweights, normal, overweights, or obese, right? So that's something we'd like to return in the string. Okay, you can look at this table here, take a screenshot or note the conversion, and then I'm going to use this table actually for coding. Okay, all right, let's see how we can do it. String result, initially just empty string. Eventually we're going to return the result. And okay, in the middle, what should we do? Step number 1, we should really calculate the Bmi. So I can say double Bmi is assigned to. So we have the weights and heights already. You can see weights and heights. So we don't need any additional input parameter to help us, right? So idea would be weight divided by height square. This dot weights divided by this dot heights multiply this dot heights. However, remember the heights we assume is going to be in centimeters, right? You remember what we said over here, in centimeters. So we have to convert that into meters, right? You can either simply say this the height divided by 100 and also this the height in 100. That's one way to do. Or if you prefer, you can also say double over here. I can say height in meters. So that would be this dot height divided by 100 over here, right? So this dot height is a double value. And double divided by integer is going to give you precision. Remember for division in Java. So as long as one side of the division is actually double, the entire result is actually going to give you the precise result rather than just the integer quotient, right? Remember the principle. Okay, so I can say height in meters over here in place of this the heights, right? Okay, so that's how you calculate BMI. And then once you get a BMI, well, of course, you know, the naming convention usually for Java variable should be all lowercase. But if you want to put all capital, it's fine. Let's say that's a BMI, and then we can do some interpretation. We can say if, let me say string interpretation. Okay, and you can actually initialize that to be empty string if you wish, but we are going to rewrite it anyway. We reassign that. Okay, I can say if the BMI is strictly less than 18.5, the interpretation is reassigned to underweights. All right. Also, else if. Okay, I think I made a typo over here. Let me just copy that. Okay, else if. Also, if BMI is strictly less than 25.0. And interpretation is normal. Okay, you can either say normal or normal weight. Let's say normal, because since we're gonna put this into JUnit test, so we gotta be precise. Okay, and then let me just copy this. Okay, else if, and then if that's strictly less than 30.0, and then the interpretation should be overweights. Okay, otherwise, so that means it's going to be larger than, if you think about the negation of this, it's going to be larger than or equal to 0. So that will go to the else part. Okay, let me just make a note over here. So that means BMI is actually larger than or equal to 30.0. So this is going to be obese. All right, so that's an easy interpretation here. And then finally, what should be the result? Let's say the result is going to be a concatenation of the various result over here. Okay, we can say result is going to be, first of all, we can say the interpretation plus, let's say a space, and then we put the BMI inside, okay? And plus, let's say the BMI over here, it's not being formatted yet, but we can format it to maybe exactly 1 digit after the decimal point. That's what we can do. Okay, we can do use something we are familiar with. We can use string format over here, and I believe $1f, right? What we did before was 2 digits, but now it can be 1 digit. And then the BMI over here, and plus the parenthesis over here. Okay, you can see it's going to be whatever interpretation it is. It can be either underweights, normal, overweight, or obese, followed by a space and then parenthesis, and inside we just put the BMI with 1 digit after the decimal point, right? It's a very reasonable result to as a report. All right, so that's about the accessor method. It's reasonably complicated, so hopefully that's good enough example for you. And then what about mutator method? Because if a member never gain weights or they never lose weights, their BMI report will always return the same value, wouldn't it? In that case, it's not so interesting. So that's why mutator method will be so necessary to really map the real world scenario, because a person will always either gain or their weight will always fluctuate. So let's now simulate that. So for mutator methods, what we can do, let me just say weights, but let's say a person, usually a member will be adult, so their heights may not really change so often, but you can do it as an extra practice. But let me just say we only support the mutator for change the weights. Okay, so now it's going to be still public, meaning that all the other classes from other packages can still use this. And let's now, what should be the return type? So this will be the characterizing feature for mutator. It does not return anything, so it's just void. Okay, so now this might be a new keyword for you. So basically, if you're trying to program a mutator method that's really meant to modify the attribute values for a class, you only put void, meaning that you don't need to put, actually, I shouldn't say you don't need to. You are not allowed to put any return statements inside the mutator method. Okay, so void. And then let's say change the weight by over here, and then let's say double some units, for example, right? So this number over here could be positive. In that case, that means the member is gaining some weights. If the number is simply negative, so that means the member is actually reducing some weights, right? They're losing some weights. All right, so here you can see there's no return statements necessary. You can see it will compile right away. So for mutator methods, if you simply leave the body empty, it will just compile automatically. Whereas for accessor method, I'm not sure if you noticed that, for the accessor method, for example, for this one here, if I simply deleted that, it would say that you're missing a return statement. You can see that, right? The Eclipse is complaining that the method must return a result of type double. Right, so that's the difference between accessor method and mutator method. One returns something, the other one does not simply return void, meaning that it returns nothing. All right, so change the weight by. This will be very easy. So we'll simply say this dot weights. I'm referring to the attributes plus equal the units, and the units over here can be either positive or it can be negative, right? Or it can be 0 if they didn't change their weights. All right, so that's about these accessor and mutator methods I want to show to you. And of course, you can also put conditional inside the accessor inside the mutator method if necessary. So for now, for this example here, I don't show it. All right, let's now write some test cases, and then I need to trace that, right? So far we only talk about how you can define and declare accessor method versus mutator methods. But now I would like to test them, and then we need to trace them as well about how you can use, how you can call methods. Let's go to test member over here. So let me add a new test. Okay, let me just make more space for me. Okay, and let's now say this. Add test. Okay, public void test member, let's say number 4. Okay, so we're going to create 2 members. Let me use different name. Let's say Alan Mark. So I can say member Alan is assigned to new, and then member, and now the version of the constructor I'm going to call is the one to which is the one to initialize the weights and heights. So the weights would be, let's say, let me take a look again. So if you look at member here, the order is really important, so you don't want to get it wrong. So the weight first, and then the heights, right? Let's say the weights for Alan would be, let's say 85 kilograms, and the height would be 175 centimeters. Okay, like that. Okay, and then we got another member over here. Let's say Mark, just a different object. It's a separate use of the new keyword. So member, and then let's say Mark is 72 kilograms, and he's let's say, oh, actually, sorry. Let's say for Mark, he is 101, much heavier, but he's also taller. Let's say 181 centimeters. Right? Remember, there's a 101 kilograms and followed by 181 centimeters, right? So after this, what I would like to do is I want to get a BMI report for every one of them, right? Each one of them. So what I can do is I can say assert equals over here, and then so I can say Alan. So how do I call the method? You have to put object name. Alan, for example, that will be the context object dot, and then it will show to you exactly the methods you can call. So in this case, change weights by will be the mutator method we just defined, or it can be get BMI report and also get the heights and get the weights and etc. Right? So why don't we try this one here? Alan dot get weights. Okay, so that one, what do we expect to see? It should be 85, right? And also, because it's a double value, right? Remember, whenever we say assert equals and the return type for get weights is actually a double. So we should really allow some tolerance. Well, I can just say 0.1. That's okay. All right. And let's now do the same thing for Mark. So I will say mark.get weights. And what should be the weights? You can see we are calling the same method over here. However, the context object are different. Alan versus Mark. That's why the expected result will be different. So that'll be 101 in this case, right? And we can also do, let me just do this one here. You can also do the same thing for also the heights. So that'll be 175 versus 181. I'll leave that to you. Okay, I'm only doing the get weights test. However, I would like to test one more. I want to assert equals over here. Let's say I want to get a BMI report. Okay, I want to say Alan.get BMI report over here. And then, so it's a string value, so there's no tolerance needed. So now, what will be the one? Okay, I know the result already, so I can put it down directly. So the Alan will be overweight. Okay, and then the BMI will simply be 27.8. Okay, so that's the expected result. You can double check the math yourself as well. All right, and then we can do the same thing for Mark. To get a BMI report, you can see I can copy and paste, but I need to change the context objects when I call. So Mark over here, and then so for Mark, it's a different. It would be basically obese, and for Mark, his BMI will be 30.8. All right, so that's what we got so far, right? You can see we use the constructor, and also we use the accessor get weights, and also accessor get BMI report. Only, but we haven't got a mutator just yet. But let's just make sure everything works, actually everything passed so far. So if I simply run the JUnit test, you can see all the 4 tests actually passed, right? So far, so good, okay? Another thing to show you very quickly, if you want to play with a Bmi calculation, you may just refer to this website over here. So this is a website which I included a link for your lab exercise. I believe that's lab number 1. You can go to this website and then try that. It will be the same table, and also the calculation you can double check over here using the formula, right? I'll leave that to you. All right, let's now do some mutator methods. Okay, let me just document the test as well. Okay, so initial measures. Okay, and now we're going to change the measure. Oh, sorry. Now we're going to change the measures. What I will do is I'm going to say, also you can notice that I'm actually using multiple assertions in a single test, which is completely allowed. You can think about, in order for a particular test to pass, all the assertions must pass. Otherwise, if any one of them, or the earliest one of them, because we're going to execute from top to bottom, the earliest one of them that's going to fail is going to cause the entire test to fail, right? You can definitely put multiple assertions if needed. Like in my case, I want to show you almost like telling a story about the history of these two members. All right, how do we change the measure? We can say, let me just refer to my notes about the change. Okay, good. Let's say this. We want to say Alan dot change the weights by. Let's say both of them actually lose weights. Let's say. So Alan loses 13 kilograms, which is pretty good. And also, we also got Mark also loses 13 kilograms, right? The same. You can see we're calling the same mutated methods and also with the same input value. However, does that mean any subsequent call of the same accessor method is going to give you the same result? That's the question, right? So let me show it to you. So now I'm just going to copy over here, and then I'm going to change that accordingly. So after they have lost their weights, we want to check to see what their get Bmi report is. It turns out, since the context objects are simply just different, so their result will just be different. Let's see. So after Alan has lost 13 kilograms, his BMI will be 23.5. Okay, again, you can double check the math and also refer to the website. It will be just normal weights, normal. And for Mark, after he lost his weight, he will go from obese to overweight. And then, so that would be 26.9. All right, so now we got enough over here to illustrate both the constructor over here, and also we got accessor before and after the changes, and also we got mutator. So when I do the tracing, I'm going to put everything together. All right, let's just make sure everything actually passed. We failed something over here. Let's take a look. Let's see which one fell. If you look at the failure trace, and then you can see, I just make a typo, right? That might be a nice chance to really remind you. Whenever you got any failing case, double click under the failure trace, and then it will pop up this menu for you, for example, for the string value. I simply just made a typo over here, I think. Okay, let me just say okay here. Overweights. Okay, just a typo. And let me now double click, and then everything passes. Okay, very good. So now I'm just going to trace this program over here together with you on both the paper and also the debugger.